The most common set of illnesses during childhood and adolescence are psychiatric disorders or mental health disorders. In fact, 17.1 million young people in the United States, 18 or younger, will have a diagnosable mental health disorder. So clearly, adolescence is a risky time. And it also means that you're more likely to have depression or anxiety, and you're also more likely to be influenced by your peer group and what other people say, so that you might do something foolish that you wouldn't do if you were a child or if you were an adult. There's a real difference between the brains of teenagers or adolescents and that of children or adults. But it's also a vulnerable time. You're more susceptible to impulsive behavior, and you feel everything so much more intensely, so that when you're hot, you're boiling. When you're cold, you're freezing. When you're distraught, you're completely overwhelmed with despair. And that's because your brain hasn't absolutely developed. The prefrontal cortex, that part of your brain that's in the front of your head, which does strategy, that tells you about cost-benefit ratio, that says, wait, let's think about the consequences. That prefrontal cortex doesn't start communicating to the rest of the brain until we're 25. And that, by the way, is the time when suicide actually starts to drop for that age population. I think we should be very clear that you can't convince someone who isn't suicidal to become suicidal. But when you're suicidal, we have plenty of evidence that it is not a fixed feeling, that we know from people who have attempted suicide and survive that they wish they didn't do it. We have a lot of evidence by the fact that very often people attempt several times before they commit suicide, that there's a gray zone, and that having the right person, the right conversation, the right mental health professional, the right support from the people who love you can change the trajectory of that attempted suicide. So while Michelle could not force Conrad to kill himself, she could enhance his risk of killing himself because he was already on his way. And simultaneously, she could have screamed out for help. She could have called the police. She could have begged him to stop, which might have prevented this deadly outcome.